Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Embry, and I am the Director of Marketing here at Travel Media Group. Want to first thank everyone for taking the time to join me on this webinar today. Very excited to share this presentation with you all. Very timely information. Now, at the end of this webinar, we'll be providing my direct contact information in case you have any follow-up questions with the content that I'm going to be sharing today. But you can also use that chat feature, which is located right there in your toolbar, to type any sort of questions or feedback. I will be responding to those questions personally following the conclusion of the webinar. Also, be on the lookout since today's presentation will feature an interactive poll. Would absolutely love your participation in it. So let's go ahead, get scrolling, and learn how to win occupancy using your hotel's social media. And I want to start today's presentation by taking a look at how hoteliers can seize the many opportunities that social media presents in travelers' everyday lives. In 2021, social media is a 24/7, 365 platform, something that hoteliers are very familiar with. Travelers are using social media at home, in the car, and at the office. And with nonstop, uninterrupted access to travelers in their everyday lives, if used effectively, social media can be the single most powerful advertising tool for hoteliers today. Never in the industry have hoteliers had the potential for this amount of exposure to guests as they do today with social media. For example, in the past, one of the only ways to reach travelers at home was by purchasing TV ad time, which most hotels couldn't afford, leaving it in the hands of their brands who didn't really care if a guest picks you or the hotel down the road as long as they pick their branded hotel, and OTAs who are promoting your hotel room for a heavy growing commission cost. Today, with the power of social media, you have the ability to capture a traveler's interest right in the comfort of their living room. Some guests today are spending more screen time on their social media accounts than on their own TV. And best of all, it costs the hotel nothing. In fact, the hotels that are utilizing their social media strategy effectively are generating more and more direct commission-free bookings, bypassing those OTAs, which have been costing properties so much over the last decade. But what about social media use in the traveler's car? Before smartphones, a good old-fashioned road trip consisted of a lot of games of I Spy and audiobooks. Billboards were an incredibly effective way to advertise hotels, catching the eyes of guests traveling by car to their destination. Today, those eyes have moved from the outside world to an iPhone. Passengers on a long trip care less about what's on the highway billboard and more about what's new on their Facebook and Instagram feed. Even with the popularity of Lyft and Ubers, most passengers default to social media as soon as they get into their car, giving hoteliers yet another opportunity to capture the interest of traveling guests in their everyday lives. And finally, the office. To be honest, prior to smartphones, there really was an opportunity for hotels to reach travelers while at work in the office. With a majority of people spending 40 hours, sometimes more in the office setting, this represented one of the biggest gaps for hotels looking for additional reach to potential guests. But today, the work from home craze is in full effect, and it's not going anywhere anytime soon. And as much as employers don't want to think about it, for employees, that means more screen time on their phone. That's 40 more hours a week that hoteliers now have to get in front of the eyes of travelers and impact their booking decisions. So needless to say, social media is more prevalent today than it ever has been before. Now, with that being said, there's also more content now than ever before. Attention spans are shortening, and your window of opportunity to capture a traveler's interest is shrinking. In fact, according to Facebook, people spend an average of 1.7 seconds with a piece of content on their smartphone. So that's less than 2 seconds to explain why they should choose your hotel versus another. And that's why posts like this just do not work. Hotels that share content like this are simply checking a box. It's not a strategy, it's an online flyer, a coupon book. Social users are not looking for content like this on their feed. They're looking for inspiration, an escape, a story. So that's what we're going to talk about today, selling your hotel's story, or what I call social story selling. Let's check out an example. And this story starts with a post that has nothing to do with the hotel. In fact, other than the profile, the hotel's name is not even mentioned in the post. But the objective of this post is not to sell the hotel, it's to engage and interest users. So let's say a follower on this account shares this post to their page because they find it engaging and interesting. Now, one of their friends and followers sees the post and enjoys the content so much, they decide to check out the property's profile. Now, as they scroll, they start to click and engage in other content that they find interesting, like things to do in the local area or events that are going on in the near future. Now, all of a sudden, that traveler starts to imagine themselves visiting, and they find themselves wanting to know more specific information, like what do the rooms at the property look like, and is it worth checking the prices for this weekend? And as they continue to scroll, they see a post encouraging them to do just that. And by this point in the booking decision-making process, you have them interested in your hotel story. They become familiar with your rooms, your amenities, everything you've shown them on your social content. This is how to win guests on social media. Let's take a look at another story. And this one starts with a social story that almost everyone loves to see, the beach. But really, this could apply to any hotel on this webinar that has a really good grasp of its target traveler and ideal customer. So we start this social story selling by posting a picture of the beach with a goal in mind, to inspire its online audience to get out and travel. So the last story we shared started with entertainment. This one starts with inspiration. The next thing travelers are going to want to know is, how do the rooms look at this hotel? Now, this is a great post because the property recognizes that they see more families travel to the property and want to showcase their spacious rooms with multiple beds. It might be harder for a family to imagine themselves at this property if they saw a room with only a king-size bed. Now, we never want our followers to only get some of our social story and feel like they need to go somewhere else for more information, or leave your profile with unanswered questions. Now, the property has also seen an influx of their guests ordering food and picnicking on the beach. Taking advantage of this trend, they post a list of local takeout restaurants that could inspire both their guests as well as future travelers. And finally, a call to action post, providing an easy-to-click channel straight to a direct booking. Let's check out one final example. And this last example is for properties in more of a metropolitan city location, or where your target traveler is really spending a lot more time outside of the property than inside. This property starts by suggesting a getaway girls weekend in the local area and posting an article with tips and ideas for one. Capitalizing on the hotel's location further, the property posts another article about the top Instagrammable spots nearby. Next, the hotel shares a picture of one of its rooms. Notice again how they've chosen a room type with multiple beds, perfect for that getaway girls weekend. And finally, that all-important call to action. For hotels, social story selling is most effective when you know who your guest is. When we wrap up here today, I challenge you, visit your hotel's social accounts. What story are you telling travelers, and will my target guest be interested in that story that I'm selling? Now, the last thing I want to cover today about winning occupancy on social media is consistency. Now, hotels have always tried to figure out how to catch that big fish. And right now, in this stage of recovery, every fish, big and small, is critical to a hotel's bottom line. Now, this is not a very effective way of fishing with a net. Fish can easily swim in and out of this net, and the chances of actually catching a fish is relatively small. But this is what happens when you're inconsistent on social media. We see this all the time in our hotel consultations. Properties posting around major holidays or sharing content only once or twice a month. This will not win you bookings using social media. just like fishing with this net, you fail to capture the attention and interest of your guest. That's why social media consistency is so critical. The more you post and the smarter you post, the better your chances become for capturing travelers on social media and ultimately landing that big fish. And if you're leveraging multiple social sites like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, you are increasing your opportunity to capture guests even more. And that's why our social media solutions at Travel Media Group include all 4 of those sites and include 4 to 5 custom posts per week, selling the hotel stories of our social partners and putting them in the best position to win occupancy against their competition. We even include social media ad spend, ensuring we are targeting your ideal guest. So as we wrap up today, I'll end with this. The pandemic has really made the hotel industry as a whole reflect on the way that it connects and communicates to travelers. A social strategy that worked prior to COVID-19 might not be relevant today post-pandemic. And now with the nationwide hospitality work shortage, hoteliers' time is stretched to the max. Do not make the critical mistake of not prioritizing something as critical as your hotel's social media strategy. It will end up costing you bookings and room revenue, especially as we enter these busy summer months where the competition is more active than ever marketing and promoting their property. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. Get this ready for you to see what hotels or group of hotels would like to learn a little bit more about our social media solutions and winning more occupancy. So I'll go ahead and give everyone a quick opportunity to engage with this. I know we had a lot of people on this call today, a very popular subject. We always get the question, will you be sending out the recording? Yes, we will be sending out the recording, but you can find all of our educational webinar content on our website at travelmediagroup.com, but also our YouTube page. So be sure to visit that. So I'll give everyone another quick second to engage in that poll, and I'll go ahead and be sharing my direct contact information right after this in case you had any questions. Give everyone a couple more seconds here. Awesome. So as promised, here is my direct contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you might have. If you asked any questions, I'll get back to you within the day. And please feel free to visit our YouTube page, our new and improved YouTube page. If you like educational content like this, you're going to love our YouTube page. We have 2 new segments, the Concierge Desk and the TMG 5 and 5. Like and subscribe for more insights and educational opportunities. I want to thank everyone for joining me on this webinar and have a fantastic rest of your week.